Good morning, everyone. I think this is the earliest we've ever done a DeProgram. John Kiriakou is right over there to the right side of your screen. I'm Ted Rall to the left side of the screen. That doesn't reflect anything ideological. Thanks for joining us. It's Saturday, May 31st, and we're really happy you're here with us. I don't know. I think we might have the entire world of political commentary all to ourselves this morning, John.
Yeah, it seems that way.
It's, there's no morning talkies on TV. There's not much live stuff on the radio. So, who knows? Maybe there's riches and niches, or maybe not. but for those of you who are here, we do appreciate you. So today we're going to be talking about the latest reversal in the Trump administration's policy. This one about the steel industry, specifically the Nippon Steel-US Steel takeover. That speaks near and dear to me, and I think to John too.
Oh, yes.
So we have some past dealings with that, and we'll talk about that, and also just the steel tariffs in general. So if you're in the Rust Belt in particular, like where I grew up, you are.
And me. I grew up there too.
Yeah. So two boys of the Rust Belt. And also the latest in immigration and deportation. Supreme Court ruling has stripped protections away from about over 500,000 people who are now going to be subject to deportation as a result. The latest on the U.S.-Iran nuke talks, which, man, that's a strange story. And I'm looking forward to talking about Sean P. Diddy Puffy Combs and his trial. Which I think brings up a lot of interesting topics that maybe have been lost in all the sort of extremely salacious details that have come out of that sordid mess of this fallen rap mogul. So, John, let's get into it with this with the steel tariffs.
Yeah.
So the Trump administration always keeps bouncing back and forth on tariffs. The latest is that the administration is imposing 50% tariffs on foreign steel. As you and I both know, the steel industry basically had been on the ropes through the 1970s, but then in the 1980s, the big challenge came in the form of Japanese competition. The Japanese notoriously dumped their steel on the U.S. market, and what that means is they sold it for less than the price that they needed to make a profit. They took a long-term loss. It was basically an investment, and now that's not even considered a controversial way to get market share. That's what tech does all the time.
Yeah, lost leaders.
But at the time, it was considered sleazy and unethical and maybe illegal. It really caused a lot of trade tensions and political tensions between the U.S. and Japan. In the end, the Japanese won. The U.S. steel industry, as we knew it in places like Ohio and Pennsylvania, pretty much collapsed. There's all these gutted factories where you and I grew up, and U.S. Steel, the big mama of them all, which you can see from the interstate when you drive through Allentown or Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. You'll see it from the highway. This just goes on and on and on. You're driving 70 miles an hour, but there's there's more and more, but it's all just rusted out. And anyway, so the Biden administration had approved, I wouldn't say that they really midwifed, but they had approved the acquisition of U.S. Steel by Nippon Steel.
Before changing their minds, though, and declaring it a national security necessity.
Right. Now, the thing is that, this is, you can really, on the one hand, it really did feel like injurious to people who lived through that period like we did. It's like, oh, well, the Japanese, they kind of broke the rules and then they won, and this is like it, and now they get to collect all the pieces. Trump ran against this deal in the campaign. But on the other hand, it's also true that, they need the investment. This is billions of dollars that will be coming in from $14 billion by some counts. They need the new technology. They need to rehab these facilities. Otherwise, they might go under anyway, just for being obsolete technologically. So, I think it's kind of like it is what it is. And maybe the Trump administration is just being told like this by the experts, this is what needs to happen. And please please sign off on it. But it is a startling reversal for Mr. Make America Great Again.
I'll tell you, there were several things that really shocked me yesterday about this whole issue. First of all, Donald Trump went to West Mifflin, Pennsylvania, which is a close-in suburb of Pittsburgh. It's a steel suburb. U.S. Steel has major works there. He gave a speech at one of the U.S. Steel facilities in which he said several things that were just incredible to me. Number one, he announced that the deal is going forward, but he never called it a takeover or an acquisition. He called it a partnership.
Right.
Well, that's an interesting way to put it, but okay, I'm willing to cut some slack. Then he made several announcements. This just made me say, wow. First of all, the deal includes this: a promise that Nippon Steel will not close any of the plants for at least 10 years. Any of them. If a plant is open today, it's going to be open for the next 10 years. Fascinating. Number two, he announced, as you said, 50% tariffs on all imported steel. So he said something that was kind of funny. He said at 25%, they can still get over the fence. At 50%, they can't get over the fence. So as of today, 50% tariff on all imported steel. If you want to buy steel, you want to build a bridge or build a building or whatever, it's going to be American steel. And third, he announced that Nippon Steel will give every employee of U.S. Steel $5,000. $5,000. Everybody gets a car. Everybody gets Dr. Phil's wife's line of makeup. Everybody, $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was watching the Pittsburgh news online, WTAE Channel 4, and literally everybody in the mill was chanting, Donald Trump, Donald Trump. It's incredible to me. On the one hand, philosophically, free trade is a great thing, right? Because it evens the playing field. It helps to improve economies overseas. That way, people don't want to emigrate to the United States. They have jobs in their home countries. And over the long term, free trade is supposed to help everybody. On the other hand, this is exactly what a president should be doing. Why didn't any other president do this? They didn't care. Ted,
they didn't care. It's like, and when there's been like not classified, but secret memos that have come out from even going back to the Reagan years, that deindustrialization was a bipartisan, intentional policy of the U.S. government, which kind of still, when I say that, makes me sound conspiratorial and insane, but it's true.
It's true because they wanted to transition into a service economy, and then they got it, and it wasn't so great for a lot of the northern tier states.
No. And I don't know why they thought it was not going to suck. I mean, service jobs never paid well at the time.
No. Congress hasn't raised the minimum wage.
The only advantage I can think of, and this wasn't the case that they made, was that it was going to reduce pollution in the United States. I mean, and I don't think they ever gave that any thought. Mm-hmm. I mean, they were just like, we're going to get rid of these factories. Why? Just because they're old, or because I don't get it, because this was a serious engine of economic and political growth. I mean, it was one way to stick it to the unions, I guess.
Sure.
But basically it was.
But that's a thing. I'm sorry to interrupt you. This is Donald Trump embracing the unions, mm-hmm. with the unions cheering him on. And it's almost like he's completing this transition that Ronald Reagan began with an America First economic policy that unions want to see. Every union member wants to see his job guaranteed for the next 10 years. What union member wouldn't want a $5,000 bonus? Who wouldn't want their decrepit old rust bucket town to be revitalized and rejuvenated Just like you and I have had this conversation before, but you grew up in Dayton, Ohio. I grew up in Newcastle, Pennsylvania. Mesta Steel and Johnson Bronze and the Tin Works have been closed since the 70s in my hometown. Since the 70s. When I was a little kid, my grandmother used to sweep the porch 3 times a day because of the soot and ash that would cover it.
There's that pollution.
From the U.S. Steelworks that was 6 blocks away where my grandfather worked for 30 years. Pollution was a problem, but everybody was working. When I was 10 years old, my grandfather walked me to a neighbor who was a stockbroker back in the days when you needed a stockbroker to buy stocks. Right. I was 11 years old, and the first $300 I made from my paper route, I bought 10 shares of U.S. Steel, just in time for it to go right down the toilet. And I think I sold it for like $56 or something, 10 years later, because everything had closed. But my grandfather said to me when he was recommending U.S. Steel, he said, look around you. Everything is made of steel, everything. Well, Japanese steel. Yeah. Because the Japanese were dumping meaning selling at under their own cost. And they did it to break the back of the American steel industry, at which they were successful. And now here we are 50 years later, Ted, 50 years later, and a president's finally doing something about it.
Trying to clean up the mess, and John, I'm really glad that you brought up this 10-year job guarantee. I had a front row seat. I was a banker. I worked at the Industrial Bank of Japan Trust Company from 1986 to 1990, and here in New York. And the thing is, for people who aren't aware of it, like in Japan, bankers aren't just the people who keep your money. If bankers have a relationship with their company clients that goes far beyond that. They're basically consultants. They hold their hands. They negotiate with government, local government, international government. So if a company wanted to open a plant, like let's say, I had Honda of Ohio as a client, I had Toyota as a client in Kentucky, and in Nissan in Tennessee, in Smyrna, and basically they would say, so Ted, Nissan wants to open this company. I did this in Smyrna. Please call up the local authorities and find out what they'll do for us. And so they had these industrial development boards at the time all over the country. And so I'd call up the local industrial development board and I'd say, okay, so we're going to bring X number of jobs. We're going to, can you bring the freeway to the plant?
Oh, sure.
Can you bring us a railroad spur to the plant? Can you say, give us a tax break, maybe zero taxes for 5 or 10 years. Those were all standard asks. And for the most part, these, all these places were desperate for jobs. These were rural places. They're like, sure. But it always struck me that, like, I remember when I first started and I talked to my boss, I said, well, what's to prevent a company from coming in, getting the local authorities to spend millions of dollars that they may or may not have, the taxpayers may or may not be able to afford, and then just packing up 5 years later or 8 years later and saying, it didn't work out, yank all the jobs, and they never paid any taxes. They just cost all this money.
Good question.
Or maybe there's not many jobs guaranteed. Maybe it's like, we'll hire 20 Americans for like the crappy jobs, but we're going to bring in everyone else from Japan, right? What's to prevent? They never asked for any guarantees. They never insisted like, well, we're not going to do that, because they were scared that if they didn't give us the right answer, I would pick up the phone and call another county and they'd get the factory. So it was bleak. And I can tell you, it was vulture capitalism. I'd sit there and go through my Lotus 1, 2, 3 spreadsheet, and I'd literally work my way in order of the highest unemployment rates in each state as they were released. Like, oh yeah, this place has 33% unemployment. They'll do whatever we want. They're gonna be total whores, right? They're gonna roll. But of course, obviously, I didn't like it, but it was my job. and I was pretty good at it. It's like, and so now I look back, I'm like, well, Donald Trump, he wouldn't have done that, and he can put the political pressure like he did, on the Carrier air conditioning factory. It's like, I'll fuck you on social media. I'll make you look bad. I'll make your life miserable. And I'm the president of the United States, right? So there's a lot of things I can do. This is great. I mean, it's like, I don't know if it's too late.
I can't believe it.
But it's better late than never. And it's like, and look, the big thing that we keep and also this is, we talked about the reversal of the polar reversal of the Democrats and Republicans on foreign policy. Here we're seeing it on domestic policy. Democrats gave up on unions. They gave up on these dirty jobs. Now they're coastal elites. But I mean, these were the jobs that allowed people. When I was a kid, I knew dudes who made $100,000 a year, which was a lot of money in Dayton, Ohio, with all their overtime, and they sent their kids to Yale. And these are guys who may not have even had a high school degree. They might have had a GED, but it's like, they weren't stupid. They just, they were working class, and like those jobs, that was the engine of upward mobility in much of the country, and both parties just shivved it. Yeah. And I always say Donald Trump, his genius was that he would look out the same limousine window as Hillary Clinton, but he saw something she didn't when he was driven to Dayton, where he campaigned extensively in 2016, and other places, Pennsylvania and so on. And he's like, look out the window and all the boarded up houses, the closed up factories, the big, beautiful closed up factories, as he called them. And he thought, man, it must suck to live here. And it must really suck. And I bet if I just say that to people, they're going to feel seen. That's why he's president.
I'm going to steal that. I think that is so 100% right on. That's exactly what has happened. Yeah. Donald Trump, as crazy as it might sound, Donald Trump gets it. And the Democrats don't get it.
And it's weird because Hillary Clinton is from Illinois and spent considerable time in Little Rock, Arkansas, which is a pit.
Yeah, it's awful. I've only been there once. It's just awful.
It's third world.
My apologies to any of our viewers who might be in Little Rock, Arkansas, but I'm sorry. It's just not a nice place.
No, it's not a nice place. And I'm not talking about the people, but
no, lovely people.
They're in a bad situation there.
Yeah.
But but she spent time in those places, Mr. Lord Fauntleroy, our current president, lived in the lap of privilege his entire life.
Yes.
And even so, well, it's like FDR. FDR was privileged, but he could see it. I don't think that's something that can be taught. You either have empathy or you don't. Yes. And I'm not sure. And so this is, I don't know if, do you think that this can save the steel industry? And two-part question, John, do you think the Democrats, when they come back to power, they'll continue these policies because they'll see the success of them? Or do you think, they'll just like drop this like a bored kid dropping a toy on the ground?
I think the Democrats will recognize the value of this policy, but they've become so elitist that I think in the end they'll negotiate the whole thing away. They'll say, "Oh, well, the Democratic Party today, we're the party of free trade and free enterprise, and everybody should have a level playing field, and tariffs are bad for the economy," even though exactly the opposite is true in this case.
Yeah, clearly.
I tell you what.
Targeted tariffs are a good idea.
They are a good idea.
You're trying to protect essential American businesses. I've always been pro them. I was not in favor of the sweeping across the board tariffs that were initially announced on almost every country. But that didn't make any sense. This is what the doctor ordered, I think.
You bet, man. I couldn't agree more.
We have a question. Do we want to? I don't know if we want to talk about this.
Yeah, let's have a little chat.
Let's have a little fun with this. Although, I mean, it's not fun for Glenn Greenwald.
No, it's not.
Yeah, so I don't know I have not sought out this video, and nor will I, nor do I have any interest in them. But apparently,
a friend of mine sent it to me.
Someone sent it to you. So whether you want to describe it or not is up to you. Do you want to?
May I?
Please.
So it's a video of Glenn Greenwald on his knees in a G-string and a maid's apron, licking a man.
Casting. It's like, oh my God.
Licking a man's feet.
Mm-hmm.
The man is berating him in Portuguese. My only comment to my friend who sent it to me was, wow, Glenn's Portuguese is excellent.
Well, you see, he has lived in Brazil for a long time.
Yeah. He's licking the man's feet. The man spits on the floor and makes Glenn lick up the spit off the floor.
Roof.
Yeah. And he's humiliating him, berating him, and then he makes Glenn get on his computer, go onto PayPal. We watch him type in his password, and he transfers the guy $1,000. And the whole time,
his password.
And the whole time in Portuguese, he's begging. It's a kink film, a video. Now, Glenn looks awfully young in this film. This thing has to be 15 or 20 years old.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And this is not his husband who recently
It's not his husband. No, this man, you never see the man's face because the man is filming it, but you see his feet. And this man is far darker skinned than Glenn's husband was. Mm-hmm. Glenn's husband died 2 or 3 years ago from sepsis. Mm-hmm. He got an infection and it spread. They couldn't get a handle on it, and he passed away very young. He was in his 30s. I don't know who this is. I don't care who it is. But the interesting thing is that it was released by this obscure, news site that I'm told is Israeli.
Mm.
Now, I have no idea why they would release this thing now. I noticed in the comments on X that several people had said, this is not new. Like the comments were predictable. Some were racist. Some were like, oh, disgusting. He's a disgusting pig. We should never pay attention to him again. But there were some that are like, this came out 15 years ago.
Huh.
We knew this, and who cares what the man does behind closed doors? It's his own business.
No, it's
but
totally.
Why would this be released now? Why would they do this now? Has Glenn said something about Palestine? I mean, that has to be it, right? I don't know. I will say that Glenn and I went to college together. I was a senior when he was a freshman, and we were both in the college Democrats. He was the freshman representative when I was the vice president back in the days when I was a Democrat. And he was a nice enough guy. He wasn't friendly. He wasn't really friends with anybody. And we have had zero contact since college. I've reached out to him a couple of times. He completely blows me off. He told a mutual friend that he doesn't want any contact with me because I'm too controversial. I'm too controversial.
Hilarious. This is the guy. This is the guy who broke the Edward Snowden.
The Snowden story. And I'm the controversial one. Anyway, that's just me. But I'm not sure what to make of this. I listen, I'm going to assume the Israelis released this. And I'm going to assume it's because they hate that he's taking a position on Palestine. But otherwise, I'm not sure what to make of it.
Yeah, it sounds like that. I mean, the timing is very suspicious. And we can talk a little bit about that later. Well, we can talk about it now. Why not? I mean, Israel's definitely on the ropes in terms of international public opinion. I mean,
man.
French President Macron is literally like this close from recognizing Palestine. As a state. following the lead of Ireland, whom, John, you've brought up and previously, we both admire that they're doing that.
Very much.
And so, it looks like France is likely to be next. I think that would be probably a very popular move in France, actually. And at that point, the dam breaks. The Brits and the Germans also have had enough. So the Mossad, the Israelis, Shin Bet, they've probably been sitting on this video for years in case of emergency, break glass. The thing is, Glenn Greenwald never pretended not to be a gay man.
No, he's been like as out there as any gay man can be.
So it's kind of like stop the presses, Glenn Greenwald. And also the idea that, I did not know the content of this until you just told me now, but the idea that he's like a little subby boy, or that he was.
Are you surprised?
That doesn't surprise me either. He's not butch. No.
At all. He's not butch. He's never been butch.
No. So it's kind of like, it doesn't go run counter to Brand. I mean, it would run counter to Brand if he was with some big-breasted, like, blonde lady. It would be like, oh my God. It's like the time I ran into Ed Koch and at the bar that you and I met at in New York. And I was like, wait, he's with a floozy. I thought he was gay.
Yeah, exactly right.
By the way, I have to say, full disclosure, Glenn Greenwald's always blown me off, and I've heard the same exact thing about me. I'm too controversial for him. I mean, he's kind of, by temperament and politically, I think kind of conservative, right? I mean,
In fact, I can tell you with 100% certainty that this story is true, that when he came back to the United States, he practically begged Roger Ailes to give him a show on Fox News. There was a period where he was going on the Tucker Carlson show all the time.
I remember.
And he filled in once or twice maybe, but he begged for his own show on Fox and they just weren't interested.
He's a libertarian. I used to read his column when it was on, I guess, Salon or Slate, one of those two. And I remember just being like, he's a constitutional libertarian. That's who he is.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I am.
And it's like weird to me that like when it's sort of like with Bill Maher, the two of them ended up sort of like identifying or being adopted by the left, but they weren't really leftists.
Not really, no.
At all.
Ted, on the I don't want to get too far afield, but on the Libertarian Party's website, they've got this questionnaire, and they'll show you based on your answers where on a graph you sit. Yeah. And I was solidly leftist and solidly libertarian.
That's how I would have identified you, as a left libertarian. Mm-hmm. I have strong libertarian tendencies as well. Obviously the two of us both know firsthand like what a bitch the state can be.
Man, you hit that on the head. Speaking of getting hit on the head.
Yeah.
Did you see the video of Macron's wife?
Oh my God. Yeah. So I did see.
Our viewer Eric is asking us about it. Well, he's not. He's asking about something different, but the same.
Well, I still want to talk about that.
Said. Yeah, but she clearly shoved him, and she shoved him hard right in the face as they got on the presidential plane. What was that all about?
Well, yeah, it's like I guess it was as they were about to get off.
Get off. Okay.
She shoved a whole bunch of cameras waiting on the tarmac, right? So they know, like, hey, you're not on candid camera. You're on camera. They'd obviously been fighting. And she's considerably older than he is.
She's like 20-something years older.
And this is a story, of course, that goes way back, that age gap, which, the French love those stories. I'm French, half French. And like, so it was a scandal. Like he married his high school teacher.
Yeah.
And they had to run away from the town. Otherwise, they would have been like basically there were going to be pitchforks and torches
Yes.
in
Right.
this very conservative Catholic town. Anyway, so look, here's the thing. I think in all seriousness, it is funny to think of like the president of the French Republic. I don't think there are many presidencies that have more like majesty and ceremony affiliated with them than the French presidency, right? I mean, that's totally magisterial, and the pomp and circumstance that goes with it. Even the logo of the French presidency on the plane right next while this is happening, and then there's the counterfactual of the. By the way, that's a French thing. The bitch slap. My mom used to do that. She would just go, bam, like backhands across the face. And it's like a snake striking. You can't see it coming, even if you know this is someone who's done it to you 1,000 times before. You just never know. You can't get out of the way. It's gonna get you. So it's like something out of a 1950s movie. But I mean, all kidding aside, if these roles were reversed, let's say Trump hit Melania like that on international television. I mean, we would assume that we're talking about a systemic domestic abuse situation, and I think, frankly, you have to assume that here. The look on Macron's face was like he had like gone back to childhood. He looked like pained and shamed. The French government tried to pawn it off as like, oh, they're just funning. But there was nothing fun about it.
And that's what he said too. Oh, we were just joking. She was joking with me. It's like, that's not the way I saw that video. Not at all. You're exactly right though. If the roles were reversed, oh my God, all hell would break loose. Yeah, that was something.
I mean, there's definitely a sexual double standard. I've always said, like if I ever had, like if how rich celebrities have their pet projects, their pet causes. For me, if I had, millions and billions of dollars to burn, I would definitely be reaching out to help male, husbands and boyfriends who are victims of abuse in heterosexual relationships. There are some resources for gay guys, but there's nothing for men, for straight guys at all. The number of like if you live in the United States and your wife's beating the crap out of you, which by the way, half of all domestic abuse is actually that way.
That's right? Absolutely right.
It's like if that happens, the number of beds that you can go to is 0 in the United States. The number of domestic support, organizations where you can go and sit down with other guys and have a group therapy thing, 0. There's some online chats that get together sometimes. That's it. There's no resources at all. This is like one of those causes that like people are it needs to get started. It's not even like, oh yeah, it's something we should get to. It's like literally there's no public consciousness. I don't know that the Macron thing is going to change that because there's just too much joking about it.
Yeah. First of all, I agree completely. Secondly, I would say fathers' rights too, in custody disputes. Oh my God. I can't get started on that because I'll talk for the next 2 hours. But that's another issue. I couldn't agree more, Ted.
Maybe we should bring a guest in about that because there are, the problem with, and every time you bring up like men's rights, fathers' rights, you risk being lumped in with like crazy right wingers who are, who are going to go all bang a bongo and do primal screams in the forest.
Yeah,
Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's a cultural misfit. John, do we want to talk about the Supreme Court ruling that basically has cut loose 500,000 plus immigrants who from, I guess, Venezuela, Haiti, and Cuba had all received sort of blanket special protection status from the Biden administration, and the Trump moved to remove them. That case made its way to SCOTUS, and they've at least temporarily said, okay, yeah, you can start deporting these people. I'm of two minds about this. On the one hand, I hate to see mass deportations and families broken up. And one thing that's really disgusting is apparently there's a policy of when migrants show up at deportation hearings in court, that basically there's a coordination. The federal judge drops the case. They're like, oh, yay. They walk out and are immediately apprehended. And this is even grosser than the entrapment. Then usually the father is deported, but the women and children stay. So the family is separated, even when the wife and the kids would be willing to go with the father, they separate them intentionally. And I'm not sure what that's about. That might just be the Trump administration not liking the optics or having to care for the kids or whatever. But it's pretty brutal. But on the other hand, it's not really like Cuba and Venezuela are dangerous places to go back to, you know? So like, it's like kind of like you're here illegally. You kind of Haiti, I get. Haiti is a failed state. Haiti is dangerous.
Yes, yeah.
But like, I don't so that those themes, like those shouldn't be mixed up together.
Especially Cuba. You know, the Cubans in the United States have had special status going back to the 60s, just because of our obsession, our national obsession with communism. Mm-hmm. But you and I have both been to Cuba. We know Cubans. I got a text from the deputy foreign minister yesterday just saying, hi, how are things going? When are you coming to Cuba again? It's great. It's a great place.
You can deport me there anytime you want,
I'm happy to go. I can't wait to go back.
Me too.
Haiti is hell on earth.
Yes.
And sure, Venezuela has some problems with crime, but so does New York and Washington.
Right.
So yeah, I have to agree with you, Ted. I'm also of two minds. I am disturbed by these videos we've been seeing the last few days of random ICE raids on restaurants, like in Baltimore, in Washington, construction sites, nightclubs. Like, what's that supposed to accomplish? Well, I'll tell you what it will accomplish.
It's terror. This is state terrorism.
It is. And at the end of the day, and forgive me for sounding crass, all this is going to result in is higher prices for all the rest of us. Because you're going to have to hire Americans who don't want to do these jobs. So to get them to do these jobs, you're going to have to pay them more money. The rest of us are going to bear the responsibility. TH says that Americans don't see the real Cuba, and it's great if you have money. Cuba's starving their people. Not in my experience. Not at all in my experience. They grow almost all of their own food. That's good. And Adrian says, that's crazy, John, that because you travel to Cuba with your American salary and you like it, you think it's fine for everyone. Go check it out. Yeah. I mean, I ate beans just like everybody else did. And, fresh fish everywhere you go. They certainly were lacking for things, but they were lacking for things because of the U.S. embargo on Cuba. They have an absolutely amazing healthcare sector. Absolutely amazing healthcare sector. I wish we had it.
Yeah, no, but, sure. I think. Yeah. Look, I think the point is well taken. That a U.S. Salary goes far in a country like Cuba when you're vacationing. Although it's more expensive than you might think, right? Like hotels are not really.
Oh no, hotels were what I'd pay here in the D.C. area.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, I think that. But I mean, and there's poverty there for sure. But there is a floor, right? Like there's a basic level of sustenance. You don't see homeless people. You don't see people sleeping outside. There's no one begging. There's subsidized state grocery stores that provide, that make sure that everybody can, they don't have the worry about the price of the eggs the way that we do. So I think that's the difference, right? It's like the bald-faced mass poverty that we have in U.S. capitalism is just not something they have there. They have the basics are provided: education, transportation, food, shelter, clean water. It's like if you want to buy like, a nice, whatever, nice car, whatever, that's you're going to need money. And like, you may or may not have that. Some people make a good living in Cuba though.
Yeah. We met a guy, we met a couple of guys walking down the street. They were selling cigars, Cohiba cigars, old men. And we got to talking to them, and they said that they worked in the Cohiba plant or factory, whatever you want to call it, just rolling cigars all day long. And they made $10 a day, right? So you work 8 hours, you make $10. But then anything that they roll after the 8-hour day, they can sell themselves. And so they'll roll another 20 cigars after the day is over, and then go to the tourist areas of Havana and sell them to tourists.
Yeah.
And supplement their incomes, like significantly supplement their incomes.
Yeah, I mean, the government is, I mean, it's hard to exaggerate the impact of the U.S. embargo, right? As they call it, el blocado. It is, it's brutal. Those sanctions are so immoral.
Well, let me ask you, if the United States were to just overnight completely lift sanctions, begin trading with Cuba, Cuba's open for the world, how long do you think that government would last?
Oh, poof.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's the thing is, it's like that people support that government because they know it's like it's the only thing preventing them from, mass starvation. But that wouldn't be the case. I mean, there's already tons of European investment.
Oh my God, there were cruise ships. We saw cruise ships from Scandinavia that were in port there, and Swedish, Norwegian, German tourists. We met some Swiss students that were backpacking around Cuba. I mean, it's Americans that are missing the boat there. Even at the CIA, Ted, I used to hear from the Cuba people that the day that the first McDonald's opens in Havana was the day the Castros find themselves in the unemployment line.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm surprised that Donald Trump, of all people, doesn't see this. I mean, this is a big business opportunity. Trump Havana, Trump Hotel Havana. Hello.
Seriously.
Like Batista never went away. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's bizarre. I mean, I guess the anti-Castro Cubans, like, little Marco Rubio and those people, they're too much of a part of the Republican coalition to holding the state of Florida together. I think it just boils down to that.
I couldn't agree more. I remember in the aughts, there was talk that so many of those anti-Castro Cubans in Miami had begun dying off, that the next generation that had never lived under communism but was born in the United States was going to force a change in that policy. And that change never came.
Well, okay, so let's get into the latest out of the U.S. in the Gulf. There's discussions between the U.S. and Iran. It's all over the place. Every weekend, we're like, okay, so this is when, the weekends are when illicit airstrikes happen. It's the Israeli way. It's a lot of other countries do it the same way. News dump. So we're always nervous. Like, if we get through the weekend without it, okay, things are okay. Israel's dying to bomb the Iranians. That's just like they're just jonesing for it. The Trump administration is, like previous administrations of both parties, reluctant to sign off on it. The Israelis probably won't go on their own, right? I don't know. What do you think? I mean, where do things stand? It's so hard to figure it out.
Well, I'm going to compliment Donald Trump again, because somehow, against all odds, Trump has been able to convey a completely pro-Zionist foreign policy with a public dislike of Benjamin Netanyahu. And no president has ever even attempted that before. Obama was openly hostile to Netanyahu. Biden was ever so slightly less hostile, but still hostile. And most Republicans just jump right into bed with the guy. Trump has been different. And I think that as much as Netanyahu wants to nuke Iran and turn the place to glass, he doesn't have the guts to do it because he doesn't trust that Donald Trump is going to line up behind him, which is good for us. It's good for Americans. It's good for Israelis.
It is. It's true. Yeah.
I really believe it. So, I follow these talks closely between the United States and Iran, and I go to the Iranian government websites to read the press releases afterwards. And it's funny, something has really struck me. It is that the U.S. press will say, "Oh, the Iranians are insane. They want to build a nuclear bomb," and we've been saying they're 6 months away from a nuclear weapon for the last 25 years.
Mhm.
And then coming out of the same talks, the Iranians will say, actually, progress was made. We're cautiously optimistic. And then they flip. And the next time the Iranians say, the Americans are so unpredictable, we're going to walk out, we're boycotting the next round of talks. And the Americans say, things actually went pretty well this time. We're looking forward to the next round of talks. The bottom line is they're still talking. And when you get experts involved, and experts have been involved the last 3 rounds of talks, that's when progress is made. Nobody said this was going to be easy, but it actually is moving in the right direction. And so I'm cautiously optimistic. Remember, we said a long time ago, Ted, only Nixon could go to China. And
only Trump can
I
go
believe
to
only
Tehran.
Trump can go to Tehran. That's
And
it.
Trump has already years ago said that he was willing to go to Tehran. He said that he specifically wanted to meet with Ayatollah Khamenei,
Yes.
the supreme leader. No previous president has said anything like that ever. They've always preconditioned. I always like the fact Trump doesn't precondition talks. Interestingly,
I love that.
you shouldn't
love it.
talk.
No.
The point of the talks is that there are no conditions. That's what you figure. So right now, speaking of which, Russia and Ukraine, there's a little bit of an impasse. There are scheduled talks for next week, I guess Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday, the Russians announced that the delegation will arrive in Turkey, and so the Ukrainians said that their delegation will go after all.
But the Ukrainians are complaining because they say that Russia is refusing to publicize their opening, position.
Yes,
and
the Ukrainians are threatening to boycott because of that.
Right, and I'm not really sure that's the hill they should want to die on.
No.
But that does make me. It raises the question of, well, why not? Russia's had basically the same 4 main conditions since before the invasion in 2022. It's like they want a friendly regime in Kyiv. They want the Donbass and Crimea. They want a guarantee that Ukraine doesn't join NATO, and that there might be, and possibly what they call denazification, whatever that would look like. They're not going to get that.
No.
So it's like they just like their Nazis too much. It's like we're not giving that up. It's like so basically though. So I guess the question is, if Russia is not saying, well, our opening position is that we're just asking for the same thing we always were, does this mean they're going to go for a more maximalist approach and ask for more with a view of compromising to where they started? Or are they secretly willing to give away things like denazification or formal recognition of the Donbass being annexed to Russia? Or does it just not mean much? I don't, it's kind of like, it does make me curious.
I think there are a couple of red lines, but they're probably not more than a couple. Crimea, number 1. Crimea is gone. The Russians are keeping it. It's never going to be Ukraine again. It's gone.
For sure.
Number 2, NATO. I think, NATO, that's a red line. Ukraine will never be in NATO. I don't think the Russians care about EU membership. I think that probably
Putin says he would actually like it. He's
really?
Like, go ahead, join the EU. My theory is that it helps Russia to have an EU trading partner right on their border. That's fewer transit fees.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Coming directly through Poland, that's a very good point.
Exactly.
And I think that there might even be a little bit of wiggle room on the Donbass. It could have some kind of special status, quasi-independence, Russian oversight, whatever. so long as everybody's treated with respect.
All over the world, and we don't really think about them. Like Nunavut, the Inuit territory in northern.
Like Nunavut. You're absolutely right. Kurdistan
has a special status within Iran, within Iraq. I mean, it's all over the place. There's places with Waziristan in Pakistan has a special administrative status.
Yes.
So yeah, with increased autonomy. The Navajo Nation here in the United States.
That's right.
So
I've been. Yep.
It's not unprecedented at all. It's just
this denazification. I think the denazification is the first thing to be negotiated away. It doesn't even mean anything.
No, and it's like, I mean, literally, it's also kind of like, let's just say for the sake of argument that you had unconditional surrender like the Japanese at the end of World War II, and you could do whatever you wanted. Well, how does that look like? I mean, do you really want... I would ask President Putin, do you really want to micromanage Ukraine? You're not busy enough with your, 11 time zones?
Exactly.
It's just do you need to well, that statue can stay, but that statue's got to go. Come on.
And those tattoos need to be obliterated. You can't have those Bandera tattoos.
Right.
Come on. Who cares?
I mean, it's Ukrainians are going to Ukraine, just let them do their thing. And not to mention, and speaking of which, if Russia makes peace with Zelensky, how long, to echo your Cuba question, John, how long does Zelensky last?
You and I have talked about this before. I think that within days of peace with Russia, Zelensky is the latest British immigrant.
Or Italian.
I really believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He does have that place on Lake Como.
I forgot that. Yes, he does.
On the other hand, if you're counting on Italian security, you tell me, I wouldn't trust the Italians.
They couldn't even protect their own prime minister back in the day, Aldo Moro. Found him in the trunk of his own car.
Yeah. They're not they're nice people, but they're not the most organized people. So. Oh, and there's. I woke up this morning to Trump saying that, the Trump administration is saying they're worried that China is about to attack Taiwan. I mean, that's just bluster, right? That was Pete Hegseth saying that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, there's just no upside.
No way.
No.
Yeah.
No. If the United States was bogged down in a war somewhere. If we had those 6 carrier battle groups in the Persian Gulf worried about Iran or something, then okay, maybe the Chinese might want to pull a fast one. But now?
Nah.
Makes 0 sense.
John, you've been wanting to talk about this for at least a week. So let's get into my former neighbor in East Hampton, Sean Combs. He is, of course, on trial for sex trafficking and racketeering. So I've listened to a lot of the details here. I mean, basically, it comes down to, okay, so he had a great love. I guess this is going to be the bookend of the show today. Salacious sex, right? But he has apparently his kink was to throw sex parties and to have his partner have sex with paid male prostitutes. By the way, if I'd known that being a paid male prostitute was an option for me,
I didn't know that was a thing.
I would have looked into it. But anyway, I thought there was no market for that.
Straight male prostitutes.
Right. So
who knew?
Great. I didn't know there was any market. So anyway, he paid dudes to come and to fuck his girlfriend, and he would watch and jerk off, and also at the same time there was a lot of drug use, and these were sort of intertwined. There seems to be some sort of vague Venn diagram between the more formal white parties that were famously on page 6 in the New York Post, and then the freak off parties. But and his defense has been, listen, like Henry Kissinger said, I'm a swinger, baby. He was a swinger. And that it wasn't about, trafficking. But here's the thing, John, I'm having a hard time figuring out what case the government is really trying to make
That's the point right there, Ted. I've been following this case from the very beginning, and I don't know why. I'm just fascinated by it. So Diddy is an asshole. He's not a nice guy. He beat the hell out of his girlfriend. He likes to take drugs. He likes to watch people take drugs. He likes to watch people have sex. That's not racketeering.
No.
And it's not a violation of the Mann Act. And I'm just not seeing a crime here. Not yet.
I'm not seeing any. I mean, I guess domestic abuse, but he wasn't charged with that.
He wasn't charged, and he paid a settlement to her.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I honestly,
a substantial settlement.
Yeah, the government made us think in opening statements that this guy's going to die in prison. He's never going to see the light of day. This is this major conspiracy and the crossing lines to have sex. Everybody was paid, right? Nobody was held hostage.
No one was underage, as far as I know.
No one was underage. These were all adults. And now his ex-girlfriend is like, well, but I didn't really want to do it. Okay, then why did you do it? Well, he promised he was gonna promote my music career.
And then he
didn't. Okay, so he's a dick.
Right. And
that's not a crime. Yeah, and a liar.
Yeah, I mean, that's
not
the thing.
Crime.
I was truly expecting, when sex trafficking, sex trafficking is a major problem in the US. Yeah. It's not hard to find sex traffickers. It doesn't look like he's one of them.
Yeah. I'm just not. And I'll tell you what, because I so dislike this guy just over the last 30 years, I was kind of excited to see, the dark underbelly of this criminal, so many of us followed the East Coast versus West Coast rap wars, and Tupac was killed and Biggie was killed. And everybody said that Diddy was a coward and he protected himself, but that he was the only one that survived. He and 50 Cent were the only ones who survived. So I was kind of excited to see this guy humbled.
Right.
But again, I'm just not seeing a crime.
Yeah, I mean,
not a crime that warrants life in prison.
Or do you remember the raid on his house when they came in like they were invading Iraq?
Yes.
I mean, they had
the whole getup and everything.
Yeah, I mean, they went in there. It's like and like his lawyer quite rightly said, he could have just called. We would have just let you in.
Yeah.
But as you know, that's not their way.
No. Like when they raided my house, did they really need 22 FBI agents? Really?
Probably not.
Yeah.
3, 4 would have been enough.
All they had to do was ring the doorbell and I would have turned over whatever they wanted.
Right.
Yeah.
No, they're being, and it's kind of like what they did at Mar-a-Lago, like going through Melania's underwear drawer. Really? It's like when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So, I mean, what's going to happen here? I guess it depends on the composition of the jury. Even if he's found guilty, obviously he'll appeal. And
he'll appeal. And it's stuff like he threatened Kid Cutie. He allegedly ordered that Kid Cutie's car be set on fire. Mm-hmm. Okay, I was in prison with that. No, he's not charged with that. They threw that into the RICO count because you're going to get 5 years for arson, but you're going to get 30 to life for RICO.
Well, the RICO
so I think this is a bridge too far.
I mean, well, I think you and I both know RICO is a massively overcharged, easily abusable statute that probably should be declared unconstitutional and repealed, or at least amended in a major way. It's kind of like, well, we're just going to take away all the rules of evidence and everything else, just so we can like whack a certain class of people. We don't care if they're mobsters. But now, at a certain point, you can sort of see this could be like the Fulton County, Georgia, Trump-related defendants. This can be massive. Fonnie Willis. This can be massively abused, and so this is an interesting thing, right? Two things can be true at the same time. Puffy can be an asshole, and the government can be worse.
Exactly. Yes, I think that's what we're seeing here.
I hope that the jury does the right thing, and unless they're seeing stuff that we have not heard about, I hope the jury returns a not guilty verdict to help teach the prosecutors a lesson.
Lulu 3, correct me. I don't know how to say it. How do you say that?
Oh, don't look at me. I'm a punk rocker and a new wave.
My kids would laugh at me, but I don't know how to say it. Kid Cudi?
Cudi?
Is it Cudi?
Well, it must be.
I have no idea, man. I don't even know who the guy is. I don't even know if it's a guy. Is it a guy?
I don't know. Cowdy, we're being told.
Cody.
Or Cody.
Okay.
Cody.
Thank you. See, I won't look like a fool in front of my kids. Cuddy.
That's Cuddy. Okay.
Cuddy.
Right. OMG.
Okay. Thank you. Hey, I want to make one more point on this too. The prosecution, if I hope I'm not wrong on this, but I believe the prosecution has rested. No?
Oh, is that true?
I don't know. Maybe, you know what? Maybe I dreamt it.
I'm really interested to hear what the defense. And the defense has some very powerful, text messages that she kept like, "Oh, I can't wait for tonight's freak off. That's going to be so great. I want you to watch me do this and that." I mean, look, it might not be fair, but I think the credibility of his accusers is deeply in question, and there's enough reasonable doubt to drive a truck through. And in the end, that's our system, and that's why he should
agree. Yeah, I have to agree. Yeah,
we'll see what the defense is coming up this week, I guess. Yeah. So, all right. Thank you so much, John. Always a pleasure. I hope you have a great weekend.
Fun, Ted. Thank you. You too. Oh, let me add something.
Sure.
Hey, I hope everybody will check out the Tucker Carlson show. I don't know, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm gonna tape it with Tucker on Monday, and I think there's a two day lag. But check it out.
That's awesome. Okay, I look forward to that too. And please buy my new book, What's Left. Never mind the Democrats. What's Left. You can get it on Amazon or from your local bookstore or anywhere. Anyway, thanks everyone. We will be back Wednesday at 5 p.m. next week. We're trying for a regular schedule. Today was supposed to be Saturday at 12 noon Eastern, but that's my fault. I couldn't do 12 noon. So we'll be back soon and see y'all later. Bye.